Guys, just a quick update. So crankshaft that I ordered, long story short, it's 6.4. The 6.4 block deck height is about an inch taller than the 5.7, so that crankshaft ain't gonna work. I am in the works of trying to get the 6.1 forged crankshaft, just because I don't want to cast. I'm going to rebuild it. I want forged. The 6.1 is, in my case, hard to find, but for now, motor's still in the shop. It's getting its bore, cam, bearings installed, all that, but once they catch up to that, they're waiting for me to bring in the 6.1 crank so we could get that all balanced. So in the meantime, I got plenty of shit to do. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the tunnel and the shifter tunnel. Already started wiring some stuff up. Like, this was part of the wire harness, so why not? I got the back cut out where the gear selector line goes through, and then the wire harness will probably tuck in here too. So now what I gotta do is I traced out where my shifter is gonna end before it hits the glove or dash, so that I can't go any further forward or my handle will be hitting the dash. So now I'm gonna go ahead and start trying to mock the shifter up, and as well as get this shaped to fit this. So as you can tell, pretty big gap. Just gonna beat some of that shit down. Good thing is, I look like once I beat this down far enough, I might be able just to bolt it straight to this. So yeah, again, I'll just beat this down and probably mount it here, maybe even here. But first I gotta get the shifter in its place, figure out how I'm gonna mount that to the tunnel, and then figure out how I'm gonna mount this to the tunnel. So yeah, so first things first, figure out how to mount. I got your mount holes. I think this, yeah, that'll work fine. I'll put a washer underneath that, and then figure out how I'm gonna mount the top part. Probably just build like a small bracket. I want to stay away from just using like a big bulky spacer, so try to build them out. All right, so for the most part, this is what I came up with. So as you can tell, welded the bolts onto there, got this bracket the height that I need it, and then this just drops right on in there. So now I'm gonna bolt it down, find some bolts that'll fit in here better than the ones that I had in it, because they moved around. But yep, and then I got nuts welded to the bottom of the tunnel, and that's gonna be the lower part of the cover. So I'm gonna go ahead and mock it all up and see how it looks before I finish welding everything, and probably give it another layer of paint now it's all scuffed up and beat up and shit. But yeah, that's it. So there it is. Not necessarily in its final form, but these are the only two mounts that I have so far. I'll probably put some kind of spacer in between it, but it's fine. Still have some gaps that aren't quite filled, but it's no big deal. Carpet will be over this anyways. But yeah, I got that turned so I can get it on and off. But as far as the shifter, that's it. I got the part cut out. This will be for the shift link, and the wires will go perfectly underneath. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty damn solid. Bitch ain't going nowhere. So yeah. So I think now that I have all this all buttoned up, I'm gonna go ahead and get this wired into the truck. Next, I think what I'm gonna try to do is start finding a way to actually mount the seats to the truck, because I've gotten to the point in the wire harness where this is right here. This is, and this, and this. All these plug into the seat. And then there's a bunch of shit under the seat that goes into this. So I believe this is the seat controller. I know some Chrysler C's, 300Cs have memory built into it. So when you get in the car, it goes to your preset. But yeah, I got the gas pedal finally to where it doesn't bottom out. I could still stick my hand under there, so we got plenty of clearance. Same thing, brake pedal. I know it goes to the floor, but if I have to, I'll cut a fucking box out of the floorboard and make a recess to where the pedal will go back down even further. But as of right now, everything's connected. That's kind of a lot of play. I don't necessarily know how much I need from the booster to actually fully engage. So now I can start connecting everything to the pedal. This is the throttle, or the linkage that I was talking about, that's going to go into the back of the shifter. So right now I'm going to, like I said, figure out how to mount the seats permanently. Once I do that, I'm going to put the tunnel back in, mount the shifter, plug the shifter in, see where I'm going to mount this cluster right here, which I believe is going to have to go through the firewall into the engine harness. So yeah, well, so I know I said I was going to do it. I'll show you what I did. Welded this is the top mount for the throttle, bottom mount for the throttle, and then that nipple that I was talking about. So now that's all set, ready to go. I think this, I'm just gonna maybe just plate it off, but I don't know if I'm gonna use that to run any wires out to the motor yet. And that boot right there on the floor is gonna mount on to this area. So I think it's coming to the point where I'm going to try to figure out how to mount the front subframe, because I thought about it, and you know, with the subframe on the rails, all I technically have to do is make sure the center of my wheel is lined up to the cab, so I have my wheelbase, and in theory, hopefully the motor will sit where it needs to, because again, the motor will mount right to that subframe. Then I can take the steering straight to the rack and pinion. All I would have to do is figure out how to mount a upper control arm. I can always go with a smaller strut or coil over, and mount it straight to the frame. So now that I'm starting to button most of this shit up, I just got to figure out where to go from here, try to keep things going. I think in between the bed and the cab, I'm gonna do a hockey puck. So you get a hockey puck, you literally drill from the cab to the bed, and it stops the flex in your body. I'm not necessarily worried about the frame twisting, because once I get the front and rear subframe in, that thing's going to stiffen the frame up anyways, frame rails. As long as I could keep that right there and that, I still have room for my radiator. And then I know the core will stay the same. So literally, as long as that stays the same, I keep the wheelbase exactly where it's at with the cab, I can modify that subframe in. But I don't want to cut any of this shit off until I've pretty much got the interior buttoned up, so that way I'm not coming in and out of the truck while this is sitting on jack stands. So, because obviously with the suspension off, I'd have to support the front to keep it level, figure out my wheelbase, and start mocking up the subframe. But the good thing is, I mean, you could get chromoly tubing to make the top part. I mean, if I wanted to, I could build rails that go off of the cab to the front that would stiffen it all up. But yep, I think that's gonna do it for now. Like I said, there's not a whole lot I can do with motor wise, but I still got a bunch of shit to do, so stay tuned. You. Alright, now all the transmission shit to the shifter is connected. I have the actual shiftage linkage hooked up too. It's running through the firewall. Got that ran. So now what I do have is the subframe. These motherfuckers. So subframe is going to be next. So what I have here are some mounts that I picked up off of Craigslist for free that go to like a Jeep. And what I'm going to do is use these as my mounting perches, and then I'll cut these where I need them in the frame rail where they meet up. So now I'm going to start taking the K member out. I think what I'm going to do for shocks is go with the smaller shock. With the spindle, I'm going to see if I can't try to take this mount here, cut it off of the K member, and see if I can't mount it where I need it and try to use the existing A-arms from the truck. Try to fuse a little bit of old with the new. So yeah.